Hello, I'm Christine Gronneberg from the Studio of Missoula, and today I'm going to be throwing and trimming a plate for you. So I think plates are something that intro students always think are going to be really easy, when actually they can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how I go about doing it and give you some tips. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I have wedged up about 4 1/4 here. Alright, so we'll get centered. And I'm going to make kind of a deep plate, okay? So there's flat plates, so your steak and potatoes plates, you know, avocado toast perhaps. And then there's plates you need for containing, okay? So we have, you know, giant salads and pasta. Maybe you need a containing plate for if you're at a potluck. Okay. Alright, and we are just going to make a nice wide fluffy pancake here. We need a lot of support underneath, so the wider the better. Alright, so really using my paw pad here to widen things out. Move that clay. And since we're going to be trimming a foot on here, we want to keep plenty of material. Okay, so probably want like 1/2 inch or a little bit more than that. Right, I'm going to bring this out just a little bit more. Alright, so this isn't going to be like a huge dinner plate, but maybe more like a lunch plate. Okay. Alright, nice and centered, nice and flat. Okay. So then I'm going to go in with my fingers on my right hand and start opening this up, nice and slow. I'm going to pull back towards myself. You could use your paw pad and push away, but I'm just going to go in nice and slow. Open this up to a wide valley. Start pulling back, compressing this little ring here that's popping up. And since this is like a really shallow bowl, we're going to be thinking curve the whole time. We're going to be thinking bowl the whole time. And we're going to want our bullseye here to be the lowest point. Okay, and let's check our depth here. Okay, so that's over 1/2 inch. We could open it up a little bit more. Okay, and we are ready for our first pull here. So left hand on the inside, it's going to swoop out. And once we meet with the right hand, and here we're going to give it a real good squeeze and make a pull up and out. And my hands, I have my thumbs touching here. So we have lots of support, and we have stable hands. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Nothing drastic. Okay. And let's compress this rim. We don't want that to get too thin and chippy. Okay. And let's do another pull. Okay, so let's go in with a rubber rib and work on the curve a little and compress. So left hand, nice and wet. It's hanging out there just supporting. Okay. Right hand starting at the top and going in, going down. Okay, so let's work on this rim. So I am going to be very aware of how thin this is, okay? And so I'm going to apply a little pressure, and I don't want to thin it out too much, okay? So I'm just going to have my left hand underneath here, and I'll use my rib here, and I'm going to give a little squeeze. Okay, a little rim, and let's compress here. Right, so fold your plastic in half, nice and neat, and compress that rim. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here, and I'm going to use this nice pointy edge here and draw a little line. So just cutting in a little, okay? And when I'm doing that, I'm thinning out the rim a little, so just want to be aware of that. Okay, so more drawing a line instead of squeezing the whole thing, okay? So I'm going to come in here with my little toothed rib here, and I'm going to follow this line here, and I'm just going to start combing, okay? And I'm going to do 2 bands. So I'm going to have one kind of going one direction, swooping here, and then maybe the other one swooping under, okay? So elbow on my leg for support, and my hands working together. Doesn't have to be super, super tidy, but it definitely helps if you don't load up on caffeine before you do this, so you don't have the shakes. Okay, let me see. Just gonna go in. I'm gonna go in real quick with my metal rib and compress before we do that. Right, and just redraw that line. Okay, we're ready for some combing action here. Okay, and I'm working about 3 o'clock here. So you do have to have a little bit of patience for this. And I like that you can see the rhythm of the hand, and these lines are by no means perfect, which I also kind of like. From a distance they seem super tight and precise, but upon further inspection, they're a little loose, so I actually like that. And sometimes there's just a little bare patch where we missed some lines. So I'm kind of following the line that I drew, really coming right up to it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Every so often, cleaning it up a little. And if you mess up, you can just go right over it again. So the clay is super fresh. So clearly I'm using earthenware, and I like glazing these plates with my white glaze, and the glaze really breaks over these sharp lines, and so some warmth comes through. So I really love that. Almost there for the first band. Okay, so I'm going to go in and touch up that line that we drew, and so just kind of smooth things over a little bit. Okay, just tidying up. All right, then back to my trusty old rib here. I'm gonna use this sharp edge again, and I'm gonna have my left hand there for support, and I'm going to decide how far in I want this first of all. A little further. All right, so kind of erased most of everything there. Got some muck over here. Don't want that. Let's compress the rim. Okay, so when I did that, I was kind of using my the fingers on my left hand to push up and compress and squeeze and give us that smooth surface. Okay. But when you do that, you have to be careful that you don't thin it out too much. So just be gentle. Okay, so before I was combing kind of out and away, bending it that way. Now I'm going to bend it kind of back towards myself, okay? So just following this line now, and repeating that same time-consuming process. So I like that they go opposite directions. It's kind of like a little feather. Okay, hands touching for support. So certain glazes might look better with this decoration than others. So if you're gonna give it a try, maybe do some test tiles. Or just go for it. So I like this design just because it looks super tight, but they aren't, they aren't as tight as they look. With the lines and the way I glaze it, they're a little streaky and drippy. So there's that subtle variation. But they're kind of simple and clean, and they look really nice as a set. Poof. Okay. Let's sit up and stretch because we're really hunched over doing that decoration. It's kind of nice to do the decorating on the wheel and kind of get it over with. Okay, so plastic, fold it nice and clean, compress and clean up that rim. Okay, beautiful. And we have lots of support under here. Okay, also you want to think about height. I want to make sure that when this is on the table, there's enough room to kind of get your fingers under and pick it up. And this is actually pretty flat. This isn't super bladey, actually. Yeah, nice. I think it's cute. Okay. All right. So flat part, flat on the wheel head, and of course I am on a bat so that I can easily pick this up off the wheel head. Okay. All right, so wrapped around my right hand, thumbs pressing down. Make sure we're under the bevel and pull back towards ourselves. All right, and then get ready for some trimming. Okay, nice. Okay, so you want to make sure that the clay's set up enough to where we don't screw up our design here. And you want to feel the plate, get to know it, figure out about how thick it is. And the interior space is going to dictate the trimming, okay? But yeah, plenty of room for a nice foot. So, oh, I got my bat pins here. Guess we'll get a bat. Right, clean up these hands for trimming. Okay, so, and before I even center it, I kind of want to envision where I want my foot ring to be. So, the flatter the plate, the wider the foot ring, just for support. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball this. I'm going to put a little fingernail indent on the inside where I want it. Okay. All right. Get a little clay here. Just need 3 little logs. All right, use my needle tool to draw myself some guidelines here. So here's my fingernail marks. Oop, and a little further. This seems okay. All right, so here's where my foot ring's gonna be. And we can make adjustments, of course. So I'm gonna start off with this nice loop tool here and have my left hand on top, got my thumbs touching for support, and I'm gonna kind of ride on the top here where it's flat and then come down and take that off. So with plates, you do have lots of reclaim, which is kind of a bummer, but it's just how it goes. Right, and I want a foot ring that I can hang on to, okay, while I'm glazing. So I'm really digging in and I like having trimming marks. I'm gonna take these off for a second, kind of clean this up. Just gonna take off a tiny amount of material here. Slowly dry. Hoofda. Oh goodness. Wow. Quite the chattering there. All right, and let's secure that back down. Actually, I'm going to try to cover that up a little bit. All right. Okay, and I'm going to switch over to this guy, and I'm going to start, it's a little too wide, we don't want the foot to be that big, so go in, and I'm going to start out here and work my way in, just so I don't, start in the middle, start to go out, and things are going great, got ribbons flying, get carried away, all of a sudden, I just keep going and I have no foot ring left. So I'm going to start here and work my way in. And since I felt the bottom, I have an idea of how thick that is. I don't have to be too nervous. All right, and since my hand was in the middle before, but since I'm working here now, it's hanging out on the foot ring, just because I need to keep my hands nice and secure. All right, I'm gonna switch over to this flat one. All right, let's work on this a little, make this a little more interesting. So I'm gonna hit the sides here on the outside and the inside. Just a tiny bit more. Okay, and let's compress here. And using my finger as a little rib, I want to make sure everything's nice and soft so you don't scratch up your countertop. Okay. Maybe just angle this a little bit more. All right. Let's pick it up and test the weight. Make sure it feels balanced. Oh yeah, that'll do. Okay, feeling the bottom. Yeah, nice. Okay. So, there you have it. There is a plate. Maybe I could soften up this edge here a little. But I'll call that good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this tutorial was helpful, and happy making in the studio.